Hello, bonjour, et bienvenue.
Bonjour. Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Trisha Wien, and I'm the head of programs at the KIX, partner of the GPE. And we're using the KIX for short in English. Welcome to this webinar about the call for proposals that KIX launched on November 2nd for research proposals, applied research about early childhood education, inclusive education, and preparation and school readiness. We have two calls open at the same time for research on education. Yesterday, we had a webinar about TPD, and this is the agenda for today. I will be presenting briefly the IDRC and the KIX programs, and my colleague Joy Nafungo, who's the head of programming for KIX, will present the objectives of the call. Sangai Jamsho, who's the main administrator of the program, and myself will review the types of grants we're offering, the organizations that can submit proposals, and what we expect of those proposals. We will continue to answer questions that we received by email. And then we'll have time to answer additional questions that you can submit live during this webinar. And we will talk as much as we can. We'll try to answer as many as we can during this hour. About the IDRC and KIX, the IDRC is a Canadian government agency who finances applied research in Asia, Latin America, Africa, and the Middle East on a range of subjects, including agriculture, climate change, social and economic policies, governance, as well as education. KIX is a joint initiative of the GPE and IDRC. It is knowledge and innovation sharing for more than 80 GPE partner countries. The KIX objective is linked to the GPEs, which is to support partner countries so they can use the evidence and innovations they need to accelerate access, learning, and equality, thanks to education systems that are inclusive and resilient. The KIX is made up of three interconnected parts, which are illustrated in the diagram here. At the top, you see the exchange of learning, 4 regional hubs of people who work in education system for exchange and learning. Their priorities, calls to research launched by IDRC, research which is conceived to be helpful for educational systems, and when the research is ready, it can be shared as well by the hubs. They also identify the needs in terms of supporting the countries, mobilizing evidence and knowledge at specific times of the when politics are being decided. This call is open to projects in all GPE partner countries. You will find the list in the annex in the document linked to the call.
I'm going to hand over to Joy to explain the theme, questions, and objectives of the call.
Thank you, Trisha. So I will start by stating that there have been several ongoing KIX projects on early childhood development and education, but there has been lots of focus on play-based learning, transition to primary school, and early learning pedagogies. So this particular call for proposals is building on the emerging evidence from the ongoing research to strengthen the evidence base on inclusive early learning and pedagogical interventions that ensure school readiness for smooth transition from pre-primary to early grades of primary school. Next slide, please. So I am going to spend some time here to talk about the rationale for this call and why we chose these specific topics. First of all, as KIX and IDRC, we do acknowledge the role of quality early childhood care and education, not only in development, but also in strengthening foundational skills for children, and that these skills are critical for learning. We conducted a scoping study with the goal of understanding the ECEC gaps across GEP partner countries, and the findings of this study have been very instrumental in the framing of the challenge for this call. So through this call, we seek to generate and mobilize evidence to contextualize and scale the impact of innovative approaches that promote inclusive early learning pedagogy and also strengthen smooth transition from ECCE to primary school. As you've seen in the call, the call for proposals addresses two interrelated challenges, each of which requires research that addresses one, inclusion in ECCE, two, play-based pedagogies, and three, foundational skills for school readiness. This is because these three factors are critical for strengthened smooth transition from early childhood education to primary school. So I'll start with the first theme, which is inclusive early learning pedagogies. And there are two issues here that I would like to highlight. First is we are keen to ensure that proposals focus on inclusion of marginalized children, children with disabilities, and those living in low income and vulnerable situations, of course, including conflict-affected countries. This is because these groups of children tend to be forgotten or left behind, yet research and we do understand that these groups of children need early childhood education services the most. The second issue under this sub-theme is that we are committed to strengthening the evidence based on play-based early learning because of the impact play has on children's executive functions and also the impact on overall cognitive, social, and emotional development. So the potential topics of research under this sub-theme of inclusive early learning pedagogy, the first one is we would like to understand how to integrate gender-responsive or transformative curriculum and pedagogy, but specifically into ECCE teacher training. We also want to see how to remove gender biases and stereotypes from teaching practices and learning materials. Secondly, is we would like to promote engagement of families and communities to improve access and quality of ECCE services. We understand the role of families and communities in supporting ECCE, and so we do not want them to be left behind. The third one is we would like to fund proposals that seek not only to develop, but also to see how to strengthen successful approaches to ECC, but for refugee and for displaced populations. Of course, including play-based methodologies, interactions that prioritize social-emotional support, community and family engagement, and the creation of culturally responsive learning environments. We also want to support early interventions for cognitive, motor, social, and emotional development of children with disabilities. And lastly, we want to fund proposals that seek to strengthen teacher support programs, and not just any teacher support program, but support programs that include community preschools, particularly where teachers may lack adequate training. And then the second sub-theme is foundational skills for smooth transition to primary school. We understand that foundational skills are a springboard for a child's trajectory through the education system, and that foundational skills have a profound impact on their overall educational success. However, we've seen that there, across GPE partner countries, there has been the disconnect between the curriculum and learning objectives and expectations at ECCE, and then also with expectations, curriculum and pedagogy at primary school levels. And because of this disconnection, there have been obstacles for children to smoothly transit out of early years into primary schools. So for instance, we see that in early grades of primary, there has been more focus on cognitive learning and less on social and emotional learning. However, we do understand that social emotional learning is equally important and should be given equal priority as well. And because it's a cross-cutting skill that, in fact, if given attention, can enrich learning for young children. So topics of research for this second sub-theme. First is we want to fund ECCE that prioritizes the development of foundational skills and not just literacy and numeracy. Both are equally important. However, also foundational skills that include social emotional learning, because it sets the stage for holistic growth and success in learning. We also want to fund proposals that explore or strengthen the existing ECCE assessment tools and approaches that can be adapted and used across countries to measure specifically foundational skills in early primary years. We are also keen to strengthen standards, regulations, frameworks, and pathways for ECCE teacher training that draw on foundational skills and play-based pedagogy. The fourth one is early learning strategies for linguistic and ethnic minority learners, displaced and indigenous children who may be particularly disadvantaged in the ECCE years, depending on language of instruction. And because of this, this disadvantage, they miss out on very important foundational skills. That because of this, it makes it hard for them to smoothly transit to primary schools and even to learn later in years. And then lastly, we're also keen to fund approaches that enhance the coherence in learning environments and cultures between pre-primary and early grades of primary school. Next slide, please. So we would like to emphasize that these projects are applied research projects, and therefore we will only fund proposals that seek to strengthen the use of the generated knowledge to address practical problems or challenges and to generate practical solutions that are relevant to GPE partner countries. So as you can see, the overarching research question here is, how can we scale the impact of innovative approaches that address inclusive early learning and school readiness for all children? And with these three guiding questions, what are the promising or proven innovations that address inclusive early learning pedagogy and school readiness? How can these innovations that have been identified be adapted, be scaled up, and be implemented in effective and equitable and sustainable ways? And lastly, we are keen to understand what factors enable and incentivize or impede the scaling of these innovations. I think Trish will be speaking more to scaling later during this presentation. Next slide, please. We ask that you adapt your proposal objectives so that they speak to the goal of the respective innovation that you've chosen. But we also urge you, as you develop your proposals, to ensure that the objectives and research questions are aligned, as you can see here. So as I mentioned earlier, this call for proposals seeks to build knowledge and generate evidence about how to scale the impact of innovative approaches to address challenges of inclusive early learning and school readiness, to strengthen the capacities of relevant stakeholders to use that knowledge and innovation, and lastly, to mobilize the evidence developed to improve policy and practice in education systems. So I would like now to hand over back to Tricia.
Great. Thank you so much, Joy, for that discussion of the theme, the challenges, and the research questions for this call. I should probably mention a couple of technical features of this webinar even before I continue further. I want to mention that the webinar is being recorded and will be posted online on the call website. Only the presenters, however, will be visible and named in the recording, not anybody who's just listening in. At the top of the webcast player, you can find a set of navigation buttons. If you lose connectivity with today's broadcast, please click on the refresh icon, which is the two little arrows in a circle. If you'd like to follow along with closed captioning, please click on the dialog bubble that has a pencil with it. If you would like to submit a question for the live question and answer period, please click on the chat bubble. You enter your name and then you can type in your question. If you need to contact the help desk staff because you have technical difficulties with your audio or visual, please just click on the question mark link and you can send them a message and they'll try to help. And finally, if you want to change any of your settings, the video quality or maybe your language preference, you click on the little gear icon, that's for settings. All right, so now we're on to slide 9. I'm going to move back into the call and review a number of items that are in the detailed call for proposals because we still get questions around these issues. So just want to remind you what's already there. A lot of the questions have to do with who can apply. So these are the general eligibility criteria. Proposals may be submitted by individual organizations or by a consortia of up to 3 organizations working together. These could include research institutions, universities, think tanks, networks, associations, civil society organizations or non-governmental organizations, nonprofits, or the private sector. The organizations must be registered or incorporated nationally or internationally. They need to have an independent legal status or what's called a legal personality, be capable of contracting in their own right and name, receiving and administering funds, and have the authority to direct the proposed project activities. Applicants should have a strong presence and track record of work in the education sector of GPE partner countries. In terms of who is not eligible, individuals, government ministries and agencies, or for-profit providers of core education services are not eligible for funding. Slide 10. These are the general expectations of any of the projects that we would fund. It is very important to us that the research that we fund is relevant and important for education systems. So proposals should demonstrate how they link to education policy priorities in the countries in which they're operating. They need to have clear plans on how they will engage with stakeholders, including but not limited to people in ministries of education. We are looking for evidence of this, which could be through a letter from relevant stakeholders saying that they know about the proposal and they would be interested in participating or being engaged with it or using it if it gets funded. If that's not possible, then proposals should still demonstrate a clear alignment with official documents like an education sector plan, a partnership compact, or other strategy documents. Second, funded projects will be expected to undertake research for development, which is designed to build evidence, strengthen capacity, and mobilize that knowledge for policy and practice. Projects should be problem-focused and action-oriented. They will be expected to meet the quality standards expressed in IDRC's Research Quality Plus framework, which refers to research that is methodologically robust, relevant and important, ethical, that incorporates local knowledge, promotes gender equality, equity, and inclusion, and is positioned for use. Third, proposals are expected to focus on existing, promising, or proven approaches that have the potential to be scaled and facilitate important change in GPE partner countries. So just a moment of what do we mean by innovation? Innovation can be practices, policies, programs, technologies, approaches, methodologies, platforms, or other interventions. And it may be the combination of those that is truly innovative. We're looking for innovative approaches that really address the challenges that Joy was just talking about. Applicants should focus on culturally relevant and contextually appropriate innovation that is feasible, cost-effective, and scalable in the context of education systems. Proposals should present evidence that those approaches are effective That doesn't have to be RCTs, that can be other evidence of effectiveness. The innovations can have developed within those country contexts or outside. The guiding questions of the call are about scaling impact. So issues of scaling should be built into the research questions and methodology of your proposed project. Scaling research can include building evidence about how you adapt the innovation for the contextual need or the scaled context in which you're operating, developing or testing means and models of scaling, supporting capacity strengthening of stakeholders who will adapt, adopt, or scale, conducting cost analysis, and assessing results. Proposals should take a critical approach to scaling, though, because bigger is not always better. We're talking about scaling impact. And we mean by that a process of improving the reach, breadth, quality, equity, and sustainability of the changes, benefits, and solutions that innovations can bring to education systems. In the call document, you can find resources that elaborate on this further. Fourth, proposals need to promote gender equality, equity, and inclusion, which are core issues to the research questions and objectives for this call. So if you're thinking about where to integrate that in your proposal, think about what is the expertise in the proposed project team? Do the research questions, design, and methodology really integrate GEI? Where is it in the theory of change and intended results, and in the knowledge mobilization strategy? You'll find guidance on how to integrate GEI into research proposals and implementation in the annex of the call document. And then finally, the projects that are funded out of this call are going to be part of the Knowledge and Innovation Exchange. They will be invited to participate in knowledge synthesis and collective learning about scaling impact, and to extend their knowledge mobilization strategies with regional hubs. They're going to be required to link their results to the KIX-wide results framework and track these through a monitoring, evaluation, and learning strategy. So proposals should anticipate who would be involved with the project team and budget time for doing so. Slide 11. There are 3 different types of grants that can be awarded through this call, each of which has a different dollar value, duration, and specific eligibility criteria for the organization who submits the proposal either as an individual organization or as the lead of a consortium. Single country projects can be up to 500,000 Canadian dollars, up to 2 years in duration, and proposals must be submitted by national organizations based in the country of focus. They are designed to be useful in that country. Multi-country grant proposals can have a larger budget and up to 33 months duration. Proposals can be submitted by organizations based in low or middle income countries in the regions covered by the call. These proposals must include work in at least 3 GPE partner countries designed to be immediately relevant and useful in those 3 countries. Finally, there are global or regional grant proposals, which can have a budget of up to $2 million Canadian, be up to 33 months in duration, and any organization that meets the general eligibility criteria can submit a proposal. These also must include work in at least 3 GPE partner countries, be designed to be useful in those countries, and in addition, use the work to inform the development of global or regional public goods that would make a difference for more countries, regionally or globally. Public goods are things like guidelines, toolkits, tools, platforms, regional standards. Because KIX was built for inter-country learning, our preference is for multi-country and regional or global grants. But single country grants will be considered when multi-country work is difficult, or when proposals provide a compelling and unique opportunity for learning from a single country case. KIX overall prioritizes funding to organizations based in low and middle income countries. And once again, proposals must target and be grounded in GPE partner countries. I'm going to hand over to Sanjay now, who will look for slide 12.
Greetings, everyone. So let me take you through what are we looking for in our proposal. You can see the details of the evaluation criteria for the call in the call document. But to summarize, we are looking for strong proposals that are relevant and likely to be impactful, In other words, proposals that directly address the challenges outlined in the call and speaks to the priorities and context of chosen GP partner countries and presents a convincing strategy to address these. Second, proposals that present a convincing design to achieve results and an appropriate methodology to address research questions and clear strategies for adaptive management and risk mitigation, scaling impact, knowledge mobilization, and stakeholder uptake. Thirdly, proposals should include a theory of change and outline processes to monitor progress, adapt, achieve results, and document and report these. And finally, proposals must demonstrate organizational capacity, which indicates that the project team has a strong track record that is suitable to the task proposed, has the required expertise in education systems, gender equality, equity and inclusion, knowledge mobilization, and applied research. Proposals must also demonstrate a clear strategy for team coordination and fair and equitable partnership, especially in case of consortium or projects with multiple partners. Next slide, please. So if your application is successful, IDRC requires you to agree to a number of important terms and conditions. The call document has links to applicable policies that you should read carefully. The application form also asks you to confirm your agreement to abide by the policies if you are selected. And we have also put online the standard grant agreement that IDRC will issue for projects that are selected. And please have the admin, finance, and legal people in your organization review the call document carefully, especially the applicable policies. Next slide, please. Now, here's the review process and the due date for the proposals. Proposals are due on January 15th, 2024. And this is an overview of the review and the selection process. Number one, IDRC will review all submitted proposals to ensure they meet eligibility requirements and include all necessary application materials. Then next, IDRC will review them based on the evaluation criteria. IDRC will then send a short list of proposals to the KIX Independent Assessment Panel, or IAP, who in turn will review the eligible proposals using the evaluation criteria. IDRC will identify IAP recommended proposals up to the maximum budget for the funding envelope available for the call, and the KIX Executive Committee made up of IDRC and GPE management will approve a cohort of projects. Then IDRC will notify applicants of the results by April 9th. IDRC will work with selected grantees to address comments and recommendations to refine the proposals and will develop grant agreements with organizations involved. Each grantee will be assigned a PO and a program officer and a grant officer who will work with them. Finally, projects begin after grant agreement are signed, and IDRC will then work with grantees to orient them further on KIX objectives and processes over a period of 3 months, which we call the inception phase. During this period, KIX program officers will work with grantees to align projects with the overall KIX theory of change and results framework and provide support and guidance on important requirements such as scaling research, gender equality, equity and inclusion, knowledge mobilization, and monitoring, evaluation, and learning reporting. Over to you, Tricia.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Sanjay. So now we are going to the questions and answers that we have received by email so far. We sometimes receive very specific questions about, my organization is this. We have to make them a bit more generic so that we can pose them and answer them in public in a way that could be useful for a whole broad range of potential applicants. You may have some questions already in your mind. Feel free at this point to start using the chat function and to start submitting your live questions. If we have already dealt with them in the slides that follow, then we won't be addressing them right now because perhaps somebody else had the same question earlier than you. So We're on slide 16. Because a lot of the questions that we have received so far are about the idea of a consortia. And you'll recall that we welcome proposals both from individual organizations or consortia of up to 3 organizations working together. So there were some questions that came in about what are we looking for in a consortia? What are the requirements of the lead organization? What are the roles and responsibilities of a co-applicant organization? And can the up to 3 organizations also have additional partners? So I'll try to deal with these all together. In terms of what we're looking for in a consortia, they need to cover the expertise required for a research for development project. And you have been hearing about all the elements that we're looking for in a research for development project in terms of methodological soundness, integration of gender equality, equity, and inclusion, a solid knowledge mobilization strategy, among other things. And so the consortia should be able to cover off all of those types of focuses within a project. In terms of what are the requirements for the lead organization, there are, of course, specific eligibility requirements for single and multi-country grants, which I've already been over. Lead organizations must have the ability to manage a large-scale grant from a financial and operational point of view. They should have presence in the field. They should have thematic experience in the subject of the proposal. They should have the ability to coordinate the members of the consortia. They have the ability to sub-grant, so the financial ability to transfer funds. They need to be able to participate in the knowledge exchange with other KIX-funded projects and to be an independent, legally incorporated entity capable of contracting in its own right and name. The lead organization bears the ultimate responsibility for reporting on all financial and technical matters related to the work. And it's the lead organization that signs the legal grant agreement with IDRC and subcontracts or subgrants to others. Only in exceptional circumstances would IDRC consider a separate grant agreement directly with a consortia partner beyond the lead. In terms of the roles and responsibilities of co-applicants, just to note, co-applicant organizations can be from anywhere. They can be from the same country as the lead organization. They can be from another low or middle income country or anywhere else. Co-applicants should demonstrate also a robust presence and proven track record in education sectors of global partnership development or global partnership for education's partner countries. Co-applicants assume responsibility for specific parts of the work and they report their progress back to the lead organization. In terms of whether you could have additional partners, you might want to include other partners in your plans. Depending on your focus, you might want to involve teachers' associations or unions, a relevant NGO, people with specific research expertise. You should think about who are the stakeholders relevant to your project's objectives and how best to engage with them. And we've already mentioned about how important it is to align and figure out how to engage with ministries and agencies of education in the country. Sanjay, over to you for slide 17.
Okay, slide 17. So can private sector organizations apply? And the answer is yes, except for providers of core education services, such as large chain private schools. Proposals that include private sector actors should demonstrate how private sector resources, for example, financial or technical know-how, will contribute to the project. Can you grant to UN agencies? And the answer is yes, IDRC can grant to UN agencies. Can ministries of education be consortium partners? The answer is no. GP has other types of grants for ministries of education through a different funding mechanism. KIX is a complementary mechanism with funding targeting other actors. However, we expect ministries of education to be involved as strategic partners, but not receive funding through the KIX grants. Can current KIX GP or Education Out Loud grantees apply? And the answer is yes, they can. Over to you.
Thank you. So we just had a lot of questions around eligibility, so I'm continuing on that. Can low or middle income country-based organizations who lead single and multi-country projects involve researchers who are based elsewhere? And the answer is sure, yes. Are organizations based in an LMIC that is not a GPE partner country eligible to lead an application for a multi-country project? And the answer is yes. Over to you, Sanjay.
right? So on types of, sorry, slide 19, okay. Can national offices of international organizations lead applications for single and multi-country grants? Single and multi-country grants are to be led by low and middle income country-based organizations. Many international organizations, NGOs or others, have national or regional offices whose grant agreements are managed through a head office in Europe, North America, or elsewhere. Those national or regional offices are not eligible to apply for single or multi-country grants. Next slide, please.
Thanks. This is about the location of the research. The question came in: multi-country and regional or global projects must include grounded work in at least 3 countries. Can these include both GPE partner countries and non-GPE partner countries? And the answer is no. The GPE KIX initiative is for work in GPE partner countries alone. Is there a preference for humanitarian or development settings? And the answer is no. We're looking for proposals in any of the GPE partner countries. And how can an organization demonstrate that it has relationships with relevant education stakeholders in the target countries? The answer is, well, this can be through a letter indicating approval or interest from an appropriate authority in the ministry, or evidence of clear alignment with current official documents like the Partnership Compact, the Education Sector Plan, or a similar strategic plan document, things like that. Next slide.
So type of research, questions on type of research. What are global public goods? Global public goods in education refer to tools, services, or initiatives that provide benefit to people worldwide in the field of education. These goods are considered public good because they are available to all, in other words, non-excludable, and one person's use does not diminish their availability for others, in other words, non-rival. Examples include, but are not limited to, toolkits or online platforms. I think Trish has already shared some other examples of global public goods earlier as well. Is there a preferred methodology for the projects to be funded through this call? And the answer is no, there is no preferred methodology, but the selected methodology must be appropriate to answer the research questions and achieve project objectives in their context. Proposals must be explicit and elaborate on the justification of the methodological choices. Many of our projects tend to use mixed methods. Can proposals build on previously funded KIX applied research? And the answer is yes, a proposal can build on previously funded KIX applied research. Next, please.
Thank you. We had received a question around submitting the application, and is it only online? And the answer is yes. So there is a landing page on IDRC's website about this call. From that landing page, there's a link to the detailed call document, to a frequently asked questions page, and then you'll find a button at the bottom of the page that says apply online. That will take you to the online application form. There's a number of questions around funding and administration, and some of it comes back to this question about scaling research. So the call mentions that it will not finance the implementation of the innovative approaches. And so what is meant by this are the costs of scaling and replicating excluded. So if we go back to the focus of the research questions, the research that we fund is intended to build on things that are already working, promising and proven innovative approaches, and position research to build and mobilize knowledge about how to scale their impact. So the financing that we're offering is not to implement the innovative approach, it's for the research about how you scale. So I'll just take an example, and you can find a number of examples of existing projects on our website, maybe to spur more ideas, but just as an example, let's say an approach was developed by an NGO, and a Ministry of Education wants to integrate it into the public system. The research could test how the approach needs to be contextualized to work now in a public system, to test its efficacy at different scales and with different delivery models. It can investigate what it costs and how costs can change at different scales. How the scaling approach can best promote gender equality and inclusion, or take account the needs of learners with disabilities. Those are things that could be funded through the applied research about and for scaling, but are not actually paying for either the NGO level or the Ministry of Education level implementation of that approach. Considering that operating costs are higher in fragile and conflict-affected countries, can proposed budgets go beyond the ceiling amounts? And the answer is no. The budget ceiling applies for all projects in all settings. There was a question around the indirect costs. What percentage of the budget could they represent, and what does that include? So indirect project costs consist of administrative costs not directly related to the implementation of the research. So that can include, for instance, salaries and benefits of personnel which support and administer the project, paying for office supplies, telecommunications costs, or computer equipment used for administration or accounting. IDRC will cover indirect costs up to 13% of the costs managed by the recipient, and the 13% does not include the actual indirect costs. So you can see a lot of explanation about budgets and budget categories. There are documents linked in the detailed call document for what are acceptable costs. Are matched funds required in the budget? And yes, matched funds are mandatory. These can include things like in-kind contributions of staff salaries, equipment, infrastructure, or overhead. It can also involve cash from private grants or grants received from local, provincial, or national authorities. Matched funds are included in the local contributions section of the budget. Going to Sanjay on the areas of focus.
So does the call cover all levels of education from pre-primary to tertiary? KIX in general focuses on early childhood to secondary education as well as teacher training. For this call, however, the area of focus will be early childhood care and education, 3 to 8 years of age, and relevant teacher training. Should proposals cover all sub-themes, or is it possible to select just one? Proposals can cover one or more sub-themes as relevant to the project. And the third question is, while the call is focused on ECCE, can the innovation focus on overage, out-of-school refugee and host community learners at primary level equivalents, example, grade 2 or 3, who need to build foundational literacy and numeracy skills before joining or rejoining mainstream primary schools? We appreciate that this question points to a very important issue. However, this call for proposal focuses on issues in early childhood care and education for children aged 3 to 8 years only. Next slide, please. So we have a few questions on the number of proposals. First is, can an organization submit more than one proposal to this call for proposals? Our answer is yes, organizations can submit more than one proposal individually or in consortia. Second question, can an organization apply to the other KIX call for proposals on teachers' professional development, agency, and well-being? The answer is yes, an organization can apply to both calls for proposals. If the proposed project is at the intersection of both calls, which call should it be submitted to? Now, it is at the discretion of the applicant to select the most appropriate call for proposal under which a project should fall. Please only submit your application under one call for proposal. For tracking purposes, the online application platform asks applicants to indicate if they are submitting proposals for both calls. Over to you.
Great. So from here, those were the questions that we had received by email up until the time of the webinar. And from here, we will be answering some of the questions that you are submitting live. As a reminder, in order to submit a question, click on the Participate button at the top of the webcast player. You'll be asked to enter your email address. And in the space provided, you can enter your question in either English, French, or Spanish, and then you press send. We have colleagues in the background who are collecting the questions and sending them to us. Please be patient if there are some pauses, but I'm seeing that already some questions have been coming in. So Sanjay and I will be answering these as much as we can during the time. So Sanjay, I think the first question is to you.
Right, thank you. And the question is, sorry, I'm just trying to bring up the question. Given the preference for multi-country proposals, what special qualities or features would secure funding support for a proposal from a single country? And the answer to that would be to promote inter-country learning, multi-country and regional global grants are encouraged. Single country grants will be considered where multi-country work is difficult and or when the proposal provides a compelling and unique opportunity for learning from a single country case.
Another question came in that IDRC is already supporting research in innovative early childhood pedagogies in some of the eligible countries. How does this affect other applications in early childhood pedagogy from those countries? Well, the answer is that yes, we do have some projects that are coming to an end in some of the countries, but it was not a large focus in all of the regions. So now this call is open to all GPE partner countries. And there is other research also that's happening through KIX in those countries. So the fact of existing projects does not affect the likelihood in either way of new countries or new applications being considered. Every proposal is considered just based on the criteria that you see in the call document.
Another question that we have is, my question is about working with refugee and displaced population. It says, how does this impact the list of focus countries? Do children need to be originally from one of the countries, in transit through them, etc.? That is, what if children are from a focus country, but have been displaced to a different country? And the answer is, research activities need to target GP partner countries that are listed in Annex A of the call document. If the country to which children have been displaced is not a GP partner country, then it cannot be a focus of the research.
Another question, can we include other countries in the proposal in addition to the eligible countries? So proposals really should focus on research in the listed eligible countries, and there are over 80. Organizations from other countries can apply, of course, provided they meet the eligibility criteria, and then focus the research only in the eligible ones.
The next question is there a template for proposals? And the answer is yes. All applications must use the online SurveyMonkey Apply application form link that includes the structure and required information for the proposal.
Regarding the budget, are the sections on local contributions and other donor contributions compulsory? And if yes, at what percent? So the answer is that yes, local contributions in cash or in kind are mandatory, but there's no specific threshold or percentage that we're looking for.
And a question on scaling says, in regard to scaling for regional and global proposals, does the project that is scaled need to be the same exact project across different countries, or can it be multiple related projects? And the answer is, the research must consider scaling factors for the innovations identified in each country in the proposal. If the proposal identifies different related innovations in different countries, those are the ones to be researched for scaling.
Another question that has come in is that the call refers to strengthening teacher capacity in gender responsiveness and revising learning materials. Are we eligible if we are tackling gender norms differently through directly engaging men as caregivers rather than teachers training or attempting to influence children's perspective through the media they consume like books? So the answer is we are not only limiting the focus to pedagogical materials, but other approaches and practices that challenge existing gender norms and biases in ECCE and promote inclusivity and participation in ECCE. They're highlighted in one of the topics on promoting engagement of families and communities to improve access and quality of ECCE services.
So the next question is, the call refers to teachers and classrooms. Are you targeting only school-based programs, or would a community-based child growth and development promotion program also qualify? And the answer is community-based programs will be considered if they seek to strengthen foundational skills and inclusive participation of children in early childhood care and education for smooth transition to primary school.
Question comes in about consortia members. Can a national office of an international NGO be involved as a member of the consortia, but not the lead organization? And the answer is yes.
The next question is, if an organization is already running an ECD intervention, can this grant be used to study the existing intervention? And the answer is yes. If the innovation was developed as part of a pre-existing project, it can be further tested and refined under this call for proposals.
What exactly is meant by demonstrating that the organization is working in the target country? Does this need to be demonstrated through program or current research in these countries? And if yes, does not having these two specific examples exclude the organization from participating? I wonder if I should just read that again because it was kind of a long question. Just so that everybody hears it clearly, what exactly is meant by demonstrating that the organization is working in the target countries? Does this need to be demonstrated through program or current research in these countries? And if yes, does not having the two specific examples exclude the organization from participating? Okay, so it depends on what grant you apply to, single country or multi-country or regional or global, whether you apply as a single organization or as a consortia. Single country grant proposals can be submitted by eligible national organizations based in the country of focus, and it is expected that these national organizations are legally registered and have some record of operation in that country. If you apply to a multi-country or regional or global grant, you do not have to have a record of operation in each of the countries of focus, but across a consortia, if that's how you are applying, you should demonstrate that you have the ability to be connected in those different contexts and have work in them.
So our next question says, you mentioned that the research can involve to develop and test models, but in the call for proposal states that KIX will not support large-scale implementation of identified innovations, nor will it fund the development of new innovations. Can you clarify what you mean by developing and testing models? And the answer is the proposal can include piloting and testing models that have been tried in other contexts, but the call is not intended for direct implementation at scale of innovations. The call focuses on proven innovations, so new innovations that have not been tested or implemented before in other contexts are not eligible.
Question has come in about if we have additional questions over the next few weeks, would it still be possible to send them in? So we have an inbox that is kixcalls@idrc.ca. It will continue to be monitored, and we will continue to update the FAQ page if there are generic questions that could be of benefit to everybody, if they could see the question and the answer. Please note that we get a high volume of emails and we cannot guarantee an individual response to each question. And in a lot of times, what we'll do is we'll update the FAQ page if something is broadly relevant to everybody.
And the next question is, are there any successful cases of projects that can be a reference for applicants? And our answer is, you are welcome to explore existing projects on our KIX website at gpkix.org, and you'll find a number of interesting proposals and projects to read there.
So we're just going to pause for a moment because we have come to the end of the list of questions that our colleagues have sent along for us up until now, but there may be more coming. So if you don't mind, we'll just be quiet for a moment and wait to see if there are more coming in. Okay. Is there a preference for the type of ECCE structures, whether community or public?
Est-ce qu'il y a une préférence pour les types de structures qu'on a vues?
So yes, we are open to funding both community and public ECCE, as long as the focus is on the identified topics in the call. And yes, you can just focus on the last year of pre-primary, that would be fine. And once again, we'll just ask your patience that additional questions may be coming in. We have some colleagues who are working quickly in the background to gather the questions that are coming in. Sanjay, can you take number 20?
Yep. Yes, please. At which stage do we have consortium partners? That's the question. And the answer is we prefer that you formalize consortium partners at the application stage. This will allow you to keep things moving on during refinement and inception stages of the project. However, if you are not able to do that, we encourage you to have a specific plan in place so that you do not experience any delays.
Can a proposal be made to include interdepartmental coordination with health and education? Yeah, we would welcome proposals that focus on integrated ECCE approaches that strengthen a smooth transition and that do make that connection. ECCE is one of those boundary spanning kind of topics for sure.
And the next question is, will this call be recorded and available on your website? The answer is yes, it will be on the KIX YouTube channel and linked in the call landing page.
I think we might have time for one more. We're coming to the end of the hour, but I see there's another question coming in here. Is there a target number of projects to be funded in this call? So KIX will allocate up to 10 million Canadian dollars through this call. And so it will just highly depend on the types of projects that get funded, whether the single country ones, will be able to afford more, multi-country ones, or regional or global. So we don't have a target for the number of projects, but we will go until the maximum of the budget envelope for the call. So I think we can sneak in one more.
So it says, do consortia members need to formalize the consortia in some type of document, like an MOU, or is just saying you're a part of a consortia enough? And the answer is yes. It's always useful to have a clearly defined roles and responsibilities among the consortium members, and we would encourage you to have an MOU signed between consortium members.
Okay. And then the very last one before we close is, am I understanding correctly that this grant requires a pre-existing scale-up effort as a subject of research? So if we go back to scaling research, we're looking for promising or proven innovative approaches, things that are already working to address the challenges. So we are not seeding new innovations or just exploring what the problems are, what is already working, and then the research is about scaling them. So this can sometimes be an existing scale-up effort, that requires some research to support it as it goes, or it could be where there is interest in scaling up, but that is still just starting. Either one is fine. So, friends, we are now at the end of our time. If we can go to the key dates slide. We will update that FAQ document following this webinar and in the following weeks. So if you submitted a question today and we didn't have time for it and it's broadly relevant to others, we will do our best to add it to the FAQ document. Thank you so much for your interest in KIX and in this call for proposals. We're really looking forward to reading your submissions. As a reminder of the key dates before us, the deadline for submitting proposals is January 15, 2024, and you should expect to hear from us by April 9, 2024. Thank you so much, and we wish you a good day and a good end of your year.